Hey guys, it's week number 4 for Angelina Ballerina, and I have another story for us. It is the costume ball. Look at that picture of all those yummy treats. It was the day of the costume ball, and Angelina hadn't been invited. If you're going as a queen and Dad's going as a king, it makes sense that I go as a princess, she said to Mrs. Mouseling. I'm sorry, Angelina, said Mrs. Mouseling patiently. The ball is for grown-ups, not little mouselings. Everyone should be allowed to go to the ball, complained Angelina to Alice later. Her friend emerged from the dress-up box, wearing a hat and a dress that were far too big for her. Alice danced until she tripped over the hem and fell on top of Angelina. Sorry, she giggled. You could fit us both in this dress. Yes, said Angelina thoughtfully. It was almost time for the costume ball to begin, and Mrs. Mouseling looked beautiful. Mrs. Hodgepodge, will there be any minute to babysit? She said. Oh no, groaned Angelina. Last time she kept me awake all night with her horrible snoring. I hope she doesn't bring her cabbage jelly, whispered Alice. Mr. Mouseling came into the room dressed like a giant bee instead of a king. Mix up at the costume shop, he explained as Angelina and Alice giggled. Just then, Mrs. Hodgepodge arrived. Good night, you two, said Mrs. Mouseling as she swept out the door on Mr. Mouseling's arm. Be good for Mrs. Hodgepodge. After a horrible dinner of cabbage jelly, Angelina and Alice ran upstairs. I wish we were at the ball, sighed Angelina. Would you care to dance? I'd love to, said Alice with a smile. Downstairs, Mrs. Hodgepodge had fallen asleep and was beginning to snore loudly. Angelina was trying to listen to the beautiful music, instead through the window from the ball. Come on, Alice, exclaimed Angelina as she began rummaging through the dress-up box. Come on where? Asked Alice. To the costume ball, of course. But what about Mrs. Hodgepodge? Whispered Alice. She'll be asleep for hours, replied Angelina, tossing a hat over to Alice. As Angelina and Alice entered the hall, they gasped. Wow, look, Alice, it's wonderful, exclaimed Angelina. From within their disguise, the two mouselings looked around them. Angelina wobbled on Alice's shoulders as they tottered toward a table piled with delicious things to eat. All that food, cried Alice. Careful, Alice, whispered Angelina as Alice grabbed a cheese ball. Such a wonderful party, don't you agree, my dear? Asked a familiar voice. It was Miss Lily. Yes, Miss, absolutely unmissable, stuttered Angelina in her most grown-up voice. Luckily, just then, Dr. Tuttle appeared. I was wondering if you'd care to dance, he asked Miss Lily. It would be a pleasure, darling, she replied as she took his paw. See you later for the whiskers reel, said Miss Lily to the mouselings as she disappeared. I wish someone would ask me to dance, said Angelina, glumly as she watched them make their way onto the crowded dance floor. Keller's waking up. Back at the mouselings' cottage, Mrs. Hodgepodge woke up when she felt a draft. It's coming from Angelina's room, she muttered as she went to investigate. The window was wide open. At the ball, Angelina was desperate to dance when a voice announced, Take your positions for the whiskers reel. Come on, Alice, Angelina whispered. Everyone lined up and the music started. As they danced, Angelina began to lose her balance on Alice's shoulders. She wobbled and bumped into her father, but luckily he didn't recognize her. Alice and Angelina stumbled into the table, and cheese balls flew everywhere as the two mouselings landed in a big, sticky heap. Just at that moment, Mrs. Hodgepodge threw open the doors of the hall. "There they are, those naughty little runaways," she cried. "Angelina," gasped Mr. and Mrs. Mouseling. Everyone stared at the two mouselings as they sat on the floor, surrounded by cheese balls and trying hard not to cry. Now they were in real trouble. Oh. Angelina and Alice were up early the next morning. There was a great deal of a mess to be cleaned up in the hall. "My back's aching. This is such hard work," groaned Alice, mopping the floor. "I'm so tired. Perhaps going to the ball wasn't such a good idea," sighed Angelina as she scrubbed away. The door opened and Mrs. Mouseling came in with Mrs. Hodgepodge. "We've brought you something to eat," said Angelina's mother, smiling. Angelina and Alice took huge bites from the delicious-looking sandwiches. "Oh no," they groaned, "cabbage jelly." And that's the end. Another page of yummy treats. He almost stayed asleep. Hold on 1 second. He says, "I want to say hi to the pretty dancers." Say hi. Say hi, everybody. He says, "I'm so tired. I was just waking up from my nap." Okay, so we have our craft, you guys. So we are adding on to our puppet theater. And this week I have added a backdrop. So I'm going to hold it up closer. So do you see how the back of my puppet theater is a backdrop now? Okay, so all I did was I colored a piece of paper that fit the back of my box, and then I taped it in. And the fun thing about this part is you can make more than one backdrop. So you can put a backdrop in for a certain part of the show, and then you can change it. So if I open this up, you can just see how I taped it on there, and you can change it to a different one if you want to do a different show with your puppets. So now, oh buddy. So now, you guys have your puppets that you did the first week, and we have our complete puppet theater, so you guys can put on a puppet theater show of your very own. I can't wait to see what you guys have come up with. All right? Bye. Have a great week.